The notification lit up my phone at 3 a.m. I stared at the ceiling, already awake, already knowing what it would say before I even looked. I'm staying in Paris a little longer. Don't wait up. Red heart. The heart emoji was a nice touch. She'd always been thoughtful like that, even when she was lying. I set the phone down without replying and watched the shadows dance across our bedroom ceiling. Our bedroom. Soon it would just be mine. Or maybe neither of ours. I hadn't decided yet what I'd do with the house. The work trip had started 2 weeks ago. A conference for her marketing firm, she'd said. Very important for her career. Networking opportunities. I'd driven her to the airport, kissed her goodbye, told her I'd miss her. She'd smiled that smile I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago and promised she'd bring me back something special. She had no idea I already knew everything. It started small, the way these things always do. A new coworker named Chris joined her team 6 months ago. Suddenly, Chris became a fixture in her stories. Chris had the funniest joke today. Chris suggested this great restaurant for our team lunch. Chris thinks I should ask for that promotion. Chris. Just a friend, she assured me when I asked about him. Actually, he's kind of annoying, but he's good at his job. The lie was so casual, so practiced. I almost believed it. Then came the late nights at the office. The business dinners that ran until midnight. The weekend team-building exercises I wasn't invited to join. Her phone, once carelessly left on the counter, now permanently attached to her hand, face down, notifications silenced. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed either. When you know something is wrong, when your gut screams at you every single day, you find ways to confirm what you already know. Her laptop. She'd left it open one night while she showered. Just Facebook, innocent enough. Except her messages were right there, and I couldn't stop myself. The conversation with Chris went back months. Flirty at first, then intimate. Plans I knew nothing about. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. And then, 3 weeks before her work trip, the message that changed everything. Can't wait for Paris. Just the two of us. Finally. Red heart. Her response, I know. I've already told him it's a conference. He won't suspect anything. Him. Me. I was him now, not even worth a name. I'd sat there on our bed, her shower running in the background, and felt something inside me go cold and quiet. Not angry, not yet. Just decided. I closed the laptop, went downstairs, poured myself a drink, and started planning. The beautiful thing about being an accountant is that I understand systems. Money, accounts, assets. I know how everything connects and, more importantly, how to disconnect it all. I also knew that I needed proof, not just for the divorce, but for my own closure. So I reached out to Rachel, another colleague from my wife's firm whom I'd met at company parties. We'd always gotten along well. I sent her a casual message, asking if she happened to be going to the Paris conference too. Yes. So excited, she'd replied. Your wife and I are even staying at the same hotel. We should all grab dinner. I suggested she take some photos of the trip, maybe catch up with my wife if she saw her. She's been so stressed about this conference, would love to see her actually relaxing and enjoying Paris. Rachel, sweet and unsuspecting, agreed enthusiastically. The photos started arriving on the 3rd day of the trip. Rachel, at the Eiffel Tower with colleagues. Rachel, at a cafe with the team. And then, the one that sealed everything. My wife and Chris, sitting at a corner table in a candlelit bistro. His hand covering hers. Her head thrown back in laughter. The photo could have been from a romantic movie poster. Rachel's caption, found these two lovebirds. They make such a cute couple. Smiling face with heart eyes. She'd assumed, like anyone would, that they were together. I thanked Rachel, saved the photos, and continued my preparations. Now, 2 weeks later, my wife's bags were packed. The divorce attorney had her retainer. The bank accounts were separated. Our joint credit cards, cancelled. The locks, ready to be changed. I picked up my phone and typed my reply, Tell Chris I said hello. Then I turned off my phone and went back to sleep. My phone stayed off for exactly 12 hours. When I finally powered it back on, I knew what I'd find, but the sheer volume still surprised me. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. 15 voicemails. All from her. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast together 1,000 times, where she'd promised just weeks ago that we should start trying for kids, and started reading. The first messages were confused. What do you mean? Call me. Why would you say that? You're scaring me. Then came the panic. Please pick up the phone. This isn't what you think. Let me explain. The desperation. I'm booking a flight home right now. Please don't do this. I love you. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. And finally, the anger. You have no right to go through my private messages. You're being crazy and controlling. Chris is just a friend. This is exactly why I didn't tell you about dinner. I knew you'd overreact. I deleted them all without responding. There was nothing she could say that I needed to hear. My attorney, Patricia, had been clear. Don't engage. Don't argue. Don't explain yourself. Every word you say can and will be used in divorce proceedings. Let the lawyers handle communication. Patricia was a shark in a blazer, recommended by a colleague who'd gone through his own divorce 2 years ago. She'd looked at the photos, the message screenshots I'd managed to capture, and our financial situation with the cold efficiency of a surgeon examining an X-ray. Adultery case. Clean cut. You'll keep the house, it was your inheritance anyway. Joint assets split 50-50, though we might do better given the circumstances. No kids, so that's simpler. She makes good money, so no alimony either direction. She'd paused, looking at me over her glasses. You okay? I wasn't, but I told her I was. She didn't believe me, but she nodded anyway. People think divorce is emotional, she'd said. And it is. But it's also paperwork. Right now, focus on the paperwork. The emotions will still be there later when you're ready for them. So I focused on the paperwork. I'd spent the 2 weeks of her Paris trip methodically separating our lives. It was like performing surgery on myself without anesthesia, but I did it anyway. Bank accounts. Separated. The joint account where our paychecks were deposited got closed. I opened a new one in my name only and rerouted my direct deposit. Her next paycheck would bounce, and she'd have to figure it out. Credit cards, all the joint ones, cancelled. I'd called each company, explained I was initiating divorce proceedings, and requested immediate closure. The representatives had been sympathetic but efficient. I'm sorry you're going through this, sir. Yes, we can process that right away. Utilities. I called every single one. Electric, gas, water, internet. Changed them all to my name only. The house was mine anyway. My grandmother had left it to me 5 years ago, so this was just correcting an oversight. Subscriptions, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, the meal kit service she'd insisted on. All cancelled or switched to individual plans. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Insurance. This was trickier. Our health insurance was through her job, and I couldn't remove myself until open enrollment or a qualifying life event. Divorce would be that event, but it hadn't happened yet. I made a note to handle this immediately after filing. Passwords. I changed every single shared password we had. Email accounts, social media, even the password for our smart home system. I created new security questions she couldn't possibly answer. Her mother's maiden name? Changed to a random string of characters I stored in a password manager. I photographed everything in the house. Every room, every angle. Documented all the furniture, the art, the appliances. Patricia said this was crucial in case she claimed I destroyed or sold anything out of spite. I wasn't spiteful. I was surgical. My brother called on day 4 of my preparations. Are you sure about this? Maybe you should talk to her first. Maybe there's an explanation. I found messages, I told him. Photos. Plans they made together. What explanation could possibly make that okay? He was quiet for a long moment. Yeah. Okay. You're right. What do you need? Help moving her stuff this weekend. I'll bring the truck. We'd spent Saturday boxing up her belongings. Not everything. Patricia said I couldn't just throw her out without access to her possessions, but enough to make a point. Clothes, toiletries, personal items. Her collection of vintage vinyl records. The painting her sister had made for her birthday. The expensive running shoes she'd bought last month. Everything fit into 8 boxes and 3 suitcases. 7 years of marriage, reduced to a dozen containers. We stacked them neatly in the garage. On top of the pile, I placed an envelope containing a copy of the divorce petition and a note I'd written and rewritten 20 times. Your belongings are boxed in the garage. The locks have been changed. Do not attempt to enter the house. All communication should go through my attorney. Her contact information is in the enclosed documents. I'll be staying elsewhere for the next week to give you time to collect your things. The garage code is 4747. After you've cleared your items, I'll have the code changed. You have until Sunday. My brother read the note over my shoulder. Cold. She earned it. Now, sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee and her deleted messages, I felt that coldness settle deeper into my bones. In 24 hours, she'd be home. She'd find everything I'd done, and this would become real in a way it hadn't been yet. I finished my coffee, rinsed the cup, and placed it in the dishwasher. Then I called my brother. Can I stay at your place for a week? Doors always open, man. I packed a bag and left the house. I wasn't there when she came home, but I heard about it anyway. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, called me Tuesday afternoon. She was 73, lived alone since her husband passed, and treated our quiet suburban street like her personal surveillance operation. Normally this was annoying. Today it was useful. Your wife came home, she said without preamble. Saw her pull up in a taxi around noon. She tried her key in the front door for a good 5 minutes before she seemed to realize it wasn't working. I could picture it perfectly. The confusion, then the growing panic. The checking and rechecking of the key. The slow, dawning realization. What did she do? I asked. Went around to the back door. Same problem. Then she tried the garage code. I could see her from my window. When that didn't work either, she just stood there in the driveway for the longest time. Just stood there. Then she started calling someone. Very animated conversation. Lots of pacing. Her attorney. Probably. Or Chris. Maybe both. Then what? Then she noticed the garage code panel blinking. You know how it flashes when you enter the wrong code multiple times? She tried the old code again, but then she tried some others. Took her maybe 20 attempts, but she got in. Our anniversary. The one thing I hadn't been able to bring myself to make complicated. She found her boxes. Oh yes. I saw her carrying them to her car. Took her 4 trips. She was crying by the end of it. Looked absolutely devastated, that poor thing. Mrs. Patterson paused. Though I suppose there's a story there I don't know about. There is, I said. Thanks for calling, Mrs. Patterson. Of course, dear. And for what it's worth, and I know it's none of my business, but you deserve better than someone who makes you change all your locks. After I hung up, I sat in my brother's spare bedroom and tried to feel something. Satisfaction. Maybe. Vindication. Even guilt would have been welcome. Would have meant I still had feelings about this situation beyond the cold, mechanical efficiency I'd been operating with. Nothing came. My phone buzzed. A new number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. You bastard. Her voice was raw, ragged. She'd been crying for a while. You absolute bastard. I should have hung up. Patricia had been clear. But something in me wanted this confrontation, needed it. Don't call this number again, I said calmly. How could you do this? How could you just cut me off like this? 7 years, and you throw it away without even talking to me. The audacity was almost impressive. I found the messages, I said, my voice flat. I saw the photos. Rachel was very helpful, by the way. She thought you and Chris made a cute couple. Silence. Then, it's not what you think. Then what is it? Chris and we're friends. Close friends. Maybe we got a little too close, but nothing happened. I swear to you, nothing physical happened. But you wanted it to. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. You planned a trip to Paris together, I continued. You lied to me about it being a work conference. You held hands with him in restaurants. You told him you couldn't wait to finally be alone together. And you think the problem is that nothing physical happened. We were confused. Both of us. There was this connection, and we didn't know what to do with it. But I chose you. I chose our marriage. I was coming home to you. You chose me? You chose me. I laughed, bitter and sharp. You were extending your stay in Paris with him. Your message said you'd be gone longer. That's not choosing me. That's choosing him until you run out of vacation days. That's not fair. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you being honest with me 6 months ago when this started. Fair would have been you ending our marriage before you started an emotional affair with your coworker. Fair would have been literally anything other than what you did. I made a mistake. Her voice broke. People make mistakes. You're supposed to fight for your marriage, not just abandon it the second things get hard. I'm not abandoning anything. You did that when you booked tickets to Paris with another man. I'm just doing the paperwork. Please. She was sobbing now. Please, can we just talk? Face to face? Let me explain properly. Let me make this right. I love you. I love our life together. Chris was a mistake, a stupid mistake, but it doesn't have to end like this. It already ended. I'm just making it official. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I'll quit my job. I'll never talk to Chris again. I'll stop. My voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. Just stop. Do you really think I could ever trust you again? Every time you're late from work, every time you text someone, every time you smile at your phone, I'd wonder. I'd always wonder. That's not a marriage. That's a prison sentence. So that's it. 7 years, and you're just done. You were done the moment you started lying to me. I'm just catching up. I hung up before she could respond and immediately blocked the number. Then I blocked her actual number too, the one I should have blocked from the start. My brother knocked on the door. Heard you on the phone. You okay? She tried to apologize. Said nothing physical happened with Chris. He snorted. And you believe her? Doesn't matter if I believe her or not. She emotionally checked out of our marriage months ago. The physical stuff is just details. He sat down on the bed next to me. You know what Dad used to say. Trust is like a mirror. Once it's broken, you can piece it back together, but you'll always see the cracks. When did Dad say that? After his first divorce. Before he met Mom. I'd forgotten my father had been married before. It was ancient history, never discussed. Did he ever regret it? The divorce. My brother considered this. I asked him once. He said no. He said some things are just broken beyond repair, and the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved is acknowledge it and move on. We sat in silence for a while. The papers will be served tomorrow, I finally said. Patricia's process server is going to her sister's place. That's where she's staying apparently. And then we wait. 30 days minimum before the divorce can be finalized, assuming she doesn't contest it. If she does. I trailed off. She'll contest it, my brother said with certainty. She's not ready to let go. Doesn't matter if she's ready. It's happening anyway. She didn't contest the divorce. She launched a siege. The process server found her at her sister's house Wednesday morning. According to his report, she'd answered the door in pajamas, accepted the papers with shaking hands, and closed the door without a word. I'd expected screaming, maybe thrown objects. The quiet acceptance was somehow worse. Then the calls started. Not to me, I'd blocked her, but to everyone else in my life. My brother, she called me 6 times yesterday. Wants me to convince you to talk to her. I told her to lose my number. My mother, sweetheart, I know you're hurting, but she seems genuinely sorry. Maybe you should at least hear her out. I reminded my mother about the messages, the photos, the lies. She stopped suggesting reconciliation. My work colleagues, several of them received LinkedIn messages from her, asking if they'd seen me, if I seemed okay, if they could pass along her number. HR had to get involved when she showed up at my office building. The security guard called me before letting her up. There's a woman here asking for you. Says she's your wife. Should I? We're separated. Don't let her up. Understood, sir. She apparently sat in the lobby for 3 hours before they threatened to call the police. My friends received emails, long and rambling, explaining her side of the story. How I jumped to conclusions. How Chris was just a friend who'd been going through a divorce and needed support. How the Paris trip was innocent, just 2 colleagues exploring the city during conference downtime. How she'd made the mistake of not telling me because she knew I'd overreact. My best friend, Derek, forwarded me her email with a single line, "She's really committed to this gaslighting thing, huh?" The most disturbing part was that she'd started posting on social media. Our relationship had always been private. We weren't the couple who posted everything online, but suddenly her Facebook was full of throwback photos. Us on our wedding day. Vacation pictures from years ago. Quotes about forgiveness and second chances. The comments from her friends were predictable. "You two are so perfect together. Red heart. Whatever you're going through, you'll get through it. Marriage is hard but worth fighting for." None of them knew what had actually happened. She was crafting a narrative, playing the role of the devoted wife fighting for her marriage against an unreasonable husband. I didn't respond. Didn't make counterposts. Didn't try to tell my side. Patricia had been clear, the court doesn't care about social media drama. Let her perform for an audience. You stay silent and dignified. But staying silent was getting harder. Week 2 after the papers were served, I came home to my house. I'd moved back in after she collected her things, to find her car in the driveway. She was sitting on my front porch. "You changed the garage code," she said when I got out of my car. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unwashed. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "You need to leave," I said, not moving closer. "This is still my house too. Legally. Until the divorce is final. The house is mine. My inheritance. Your name was never on the deed. But we lived here together. I have rights." "No. You don't. And if you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police for trespassing." She stood up, wobbly. Had she been drinking? "I just want to talk. 5 minutes. Please. 5 minutes and I'll leave and never bother you again." It was a lie. Obviously. 5 minutes would become an hour, would become her trying to stay the night, would become her trying to worm her way back into my life. But I was so tired of this. Tired of the calls to my family, the emails to my friends, the social media performance. Maybe if I let her say her piece, she'd finally accept that this was over. 5 minutes, I said. On the porch. You're not coming inside. We sat on opposite ends of the porch swing my grandmother had installed decades ago. I'd kissed my wife on this swing the day I'd proposed. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'm sorry," she started. "I know I've said it before, but I need you to hear it. I am so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Chris and I, it was a fantasy. A stupid escape from real-life stress. It wasn't real. You and I are real. If we're so real, why did you need an escape?" She didn't have an answer for that. "I've been thinking," she continued, "about what went wrong. About what I could have done differently. And I realize I took you for granted. I stopped seeing you, really seeing you. We got comfortable, and I got bored. But boredom isn't a reason to blow up a marriage. You're right. It's not. So why did you? I didn't mean to. It happened gradually. The texts with Chris got more frequent. The lunches turned into dinners. The work conversations turned into personal ones. And by the time I realized it had gone too far, I didn't know how to stop it without losing everything. So your solution was to go to Paris with him and hope I'd never find out. I was going to end it. After Paris, I was going to tell Chris that it was over, that I chose my marriage. Paris was supposed to be closure. I actually laughed. You were going to end your emotional affair by going on a romantic trip to one of the most beautiful cities in the world? Do you hear yourself? I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like you wanted one last hurrah before you had to face consequences. It sounds like you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. It sounds like you're still lying, even now. Her face crumpled. I'm not lying. I love you. I've always loved you. No. You love the idea of me. You love the comfortable life we built. You love not having to deal with the mess of divorce. But you don't love me. If you did, you never would have done this in the first place. That's not true. Your 5 minutes are up. Leave. Please, just. I stood up and pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. You have 10 seconds to get off my property. She left, crying, stumbling to her car. I watched her drive away and then went inside and locked every door, checked every window. Then I sat on my couch and finally, for the first time since this whole thing started, I cried. Not for her. Not for us. But for the person I used to be, the one who'd trusted completely and loved without reservation. That person was gone, and I mourned him. The next morning, I woke to an email from Patricia. She's requested mediation. Wants to discuss the terms of the divorce. Are you willing? I typed back, what are her terms? She wants the house. I called Patricia immediately. Absolutely not. I told her that wouldn't fly. The house is your separate property, inherited before the marriage. She has no claim. But she's arguing that she's put work into it, contributed to renovations. We repainted one bedroom. That's it. I know. And the judge will know. But she's grasping at straws. People do that when they're desperate. What else does she want? Alimony. We make almost the same amount. There's no grounds for alimony. Again, I know. This is all posturing. She's hoping you'll negotiate, give her something to feel like she won. My recommendation? Offer nothing. You have the evidence of infidelity. You have the financial records showing clean separation. You have everything documented. She has nothing except a good story and increasingly desperate tactics. So we go to trial. If necessary. But most likely, her attorney will convince her to accept the 50-50 split of marital assets and walk away. Nobody wins in a trial except the lawyers. How long? Could be finalized in 2 months if she accepts the terms. 6 months to a year if she fights. I hung up feeling hollowed out. This was supposed to be simple. Catch her cheating, file for divorce, move on. But she was making it complicated because she couldn't accept that her choices had consequences. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Stop ignoring my sister. It was her older sister, Emma. We'd always gotten along, spent holidays together. She's falling apart, and you won't even talk to her. Emma, with all due respect, this isn't your business. She's my sister. That makes it my business. And I think you're being cruel. Punishing her for one mistake. It wasn't one mistake. It was months of lies. It was planning a romantic trip with another man. It was choosing him over our marriage again and again and again. She says nothing happened. I don't care what she says. I care what she did. And what she did was betray every promise she made to me. I'm done. She loves you. Then she should have thought about that before Paris. Goodbye, Emma. I blocked that number too. That night, lying in bed in the house that felt too big and too empty, I made a decision. I was done being reactive. Done waiting for her next move. Done letting her control the narrative. I opened my laptop and started typing. The email to Patricia was short. Accept no negotiations. Proceed with the divorce as filed. I want this done as quickly as possible. Her response came within minutes. Understood. I'll inform her attorney that we're not interested in mediation. Expect resistance, but we'll push through. You're doing the right thing. Was I? The question had haunted me for weeks now, whispering in the quiet moments. 7 years of marriage, ended because of messages and photos and plans that maybe, possibly, could have an innocent explanation. But no. I'd replayed this enough times in my head. The messages weren't ambiguous. Can't wait to finally be alone together didn't mean grabbing coffee between conference sessions. The hand-holding in that bistro photo wasn't friendly. And the lie, the fundamental, deliberate lie about the nature of the trip, that was unforgivable. I'd given her my trust, and she'd spent it on someone else. The divorce proceedings moved forward with mechanical efficiency. Her attorney tried several more times to negotiate, first for the house, then for a larger share of our savings, then for my car, a vintage convertible I'd restored myself, then for anything she could use as leverage. Patricia shut down every attempt. Your client had an affair, Patricia told her attorney during one conference call I was present for. My client has documentation, photos, and witness statements. If you'd like to go to trial and have all of that entered into public record, we're happy to oblige. Otherwise, accept the 50-50 split and be grateful we're not pushing for a fault divorce that would look even worse for her. There was a long pause. Then her attorney, I'll speak with my client. 2 days later, they accepted the terms. 60 days after I'd sent that "Tell Chris I said hello" message, I signed the papers that ended my marriage. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. The assets were divided exactly down the middle. Our savings account, split. The joint investment portfolio, split. The furniture we'd bought together, catalogued and divided. She got the couch, I got the dining table. She got the bedroom set, I got the living room chairs. It was like dividing up a life we'd built together into neat, painful pieces. She got to keep her car. I kept mine. We sold the expensive espresso machine we'd bought on our anniversary and split the proceeds. The only thing I fought for, really fought for, was my grandmother's wedding ring that I'd used to propose. She'd tried to claim it as a gift, therefore hers to keep. I'd nearly gone nuclear over that, ready to drag the divorce out for months if necessary. Patricia had been calmer. Family heirlooms returned to the family of origin. It's standard. We'll get it back. And we did. The day the ring arrived via courier, I put it in a safety deposit box and tried not to think about the hope I'd felt when I'd first slipped it onto her finger. I never saw her again after that day on the porch. All communication went through attorneys. All asset exchanges were handled by third parties. She became an abstract concept, a signature on legal documents, a name on settlement papers. I heard through mutual friends, the few we still had, that she and Chris had officially started dating 2 months after the divorce was finalized. They posted a couple's photo on Instagram, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling at the Eiffel Tower. So much for just friends. Derek called me when he saw it. "You okay, man?" "Yeah," I said, and realized I meant it. "I'm okay." Because I was. Not happy, not yet. But okay. The anger had burned itself out. The hurt had scabbed over. What remained was a kind of quiet resignation, an acceptance that some things end, and that's not always a tragedy. 6 months post-divorce, I sold the house. Too many memories in those walls, too many ghosts in the corners. I'd loved it once because it was my grandmother's, because it represented family and history and roots. But now it just felt like a museum to a failed marriage. I bought a condo downtown, modern and sleek and nothing like the suburban home I'd shared with her. I furnished it with things I liked, not things we'd compromised on. I hung art that I enjoyed, not pieces she'd picked out. I made it mine in a way the house had never fully been. I dated. Casually. Nothing serious. Wasn't ready for serious. Maybe wouldn't be ready for a long time. But it was nice to remember that there were other people in the world, other possibilities, other potential futures that didn't involve betrayal and divorce attorneys. A year after the divorce, I ran into Emma at a coffee shop. We made eye contact, and for a moment I thought she'd ignore me. Instead, she walked over. "Hi," she said, awkward. "Can we talk? Just for a minute." I gestured to the empty chair at my table. Saturday. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For that phone call. For taking her side without knowing the full story." She told me her version of events, and I believed her because she's my sister. But I've seen her with Chris now, and I've seen how they are together, and She trailed off. "You were right. About all of it. Thanks for saying that. She's miserable, by the way. With Chris. Turns out the fantasy doesn't hold up to reality. They fight constantly. He's apparently not as charming when you actually have to deal with his dirty socks and bad moods." I didn't ask for more details. Didn't want them. "I hope she finds whatever she's looking for," I said, meaning it. "I hope she figures out what she wants and becomes happy. Just not with me." Emma nodded. "You seem good. Better than I expected." Getting there. We parted ways amicably. I didn't expect we'd ever be friends again, but the closure was nice. 2 years post-divorce, I met someone. Sarah. She was a photographer, funny and kind and refreshingly direct. When I told her about my divorce, not the first date, but not far off, she'd listened carefully and then asked, "Are you over it?" Because I don't do rebound situations. "I'm over it," I'd said. Took a while, but yeah, I'm over it. "Good. Because I like you, and I don't want to compete with a ghost." She didn't have to. The ghost of my marriage had been laid to rest the moment I'd signed those papers. 3 years post-divorce, I realized I'd gone an entire week without thinking about her. About the marriage, the betrayal, the divorce. It had simply stopped mattering. That's when I knew I was actually free. I never tried to find out what happened to her and Chris. Didn't check their social media. Didn't ask mutual acquaintances. That chapter of my life was closed, and I had no interest in reading ahead to see how their story ended. My story, the one that mattered, was still being written. And it was better than anything I could have imagined back in that dark bedroom at 3 a.m., reading a message about extended stays in Paris. Sometimes people ask me if I have regrets. If I wish I'd tried harder to save the marriage. If I'd been too hasty in cutting her off so completely. The answer is always no. Because I learned something important during those months of divorce proceedings and lonely nights in an empty house. Trust, once broken, can't be repaired with apologies and promises. You can't rebuild a foundation that's been shattered. You can only clear the rubble and build something new somewhere else. I built something new. A life that was mine, with boundaries I controlled and trust one gave carefully. A life where I didn't check phones or doubt motives or wonder if the person I loved was thinking about someone else. She'd made her choice in Paris, in those messages, in those months of lies. I'd simply made mine in response. And I told her exactly what I thought of her choice with 5 words. "Tell Chris I said hello." It was the last thing I ever said to her as her husband. And it was enough. Years later, on a quiet Sunday morning, I'm having coffee with Sarah, now my wife, on the balcony of our condo. My phone buzzes with a LinkedIn message from someone I don't recognize. I almost delete it, but something makes me open it. It's from her. A long, rambling message about how she's sorry, how she's been in therapy, how she realizes now what she threw away. How Chris left her for someone else, the irony isn't lost on me. How she wonders if maybe, someday, we could talk. I show Sarah. She reads it and looks at me. "What are you going to do?" I delete the message without responding, block the account, and set down my phone. Nothing, I say. I'm going to do absolutely nothing. Good answer, Sarah says, and kisses me. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. This is one of them.